Elevated work platforms allow us to safely perform various tasks and maintenance operations at heights that otherwise may be unreachable. These elevated working platforms come in various configurations, such as this boom lift, which can maneuver the work platform beyond the base of the vehicle, as well as the commonly used scissor-type lifts, which will keep the work platform over the base of the vehicle.
There are many different styles of lifts available from a wide variety of manufacturers, each type designed for various applications and site conditions. And while each type of lift platform may look and perform differently, they all have one thing in common: the potential for serious injury and death when operated in an unsafe or improper manner. Electrocution, falls, crushed body parts, and tip-overs are just a few examples of the types of incidents that result from the unsafe or careless operation of an elevated work platform.
Because of these dangers, only trained and authorized employees may operate an aerial work platform. If you have not been trained or have not been properly authorized by your company, then you may not operate an elevated work platform. Also understand that authorized operators have a responsibility not to allow unauthorized personnel to operate the lift. A lesson learned by Will Howard, a maintenance worker.
I had just finished using the lift to do some maintenance on the process system when Freddie asked if he could use it to pull wire for some new lighting. I wanted to help him out, so I gave him the key.
Freddie was not trained in the operation of the lift and didn't understand its stability characteristics. And when he tried to forcibly pull the wires through some conduit,
I thought I was doing him a favor by letting him use it. But now, he's dead.
Freddie had no idea that pushing or pulling against objects while elevated can generate enough force to tip an elevated platform. This is just one example why operators must undergo specific training before being allowed to operate a lift.
all operators must undergo general operator training. In this training, you will become familiar with the operator's manual, where it is stored, and the important information it contains. You will learn how to properly perform a pre-operational inspection, the location and purpose of all safety placards and decals, the operation and function of the various directional controls and safety devices, how to perform a route of travel and workplace inspection, and why it is important to do so, as well as general safe operating procedures and practices to ensure the safety of both operators and pedestrians.
Many of these general training topics will be covered in this program. However, you will also receive instruction on the operation of the specific type of lift that you will be using. Before becoming a certified operator, you will be required to operate the platform in the presence of a qualified person to demonstrate your proficiency using the equipment. One of the most important things to understand about aerial work platforms are the factors that affect stability.
One factor is leverage. You may be familiar with how a lever works. A small amount of force placed on one end can generate a large amount of force on the other. While generally helpful, this principle works against us when applied to an elevated work platform. Raising a platform over a narrow base of support creates a long lever arm, and a small amount of sideways or horizontal force on the raised platform can place enough force on the base to cause a tip over. And when the platform can be extended beyond the base, such as on this boom lift, the leverage is even greater. The maximum amount of horizontal force a fully loaded lift can withstand before tipping is called the horizontal load. This information can be found in the operator's manual or warning labels for each lift.
You may be surprised to realize how little force is required to turn over a fully elevated platform. For example, for this scissor lift, the maximum horizontal load is just 150 pounds.
This is the type of information Freddie didn't know, and is why you should never push away from or pull against any solid objects while elevated in a lift. Another factor that affects stability is the weight placed on the platform.
Every lift has a maximum platform capacity which it is designed to lift safely. This capacity can be found on the data plate and in the owner's manual. Overloading your lift with excess personnel, tools, and equipment can also lead to a tip over.
Overloaded platforms are top-heavy and will become unstable at less than full elevation and may tip over under seemingly normal conditions. Make sure you understand your platform's capacity before use. In addition to leverage and capacity, the surface condition and slope of the work area also affect stability. Work platforms are designed to safely elevate only on a flat, level surface, but is not designed to be elevated or travel on a slope while elevated. Adding a sloped surface to the stability characteristics we discussed earlier increases the effect of both leverage and platform load, making the lift unstable. Similarly, when a wheel drops into even a small pothole, trench, floor drain, or similar item, an elevated lift may also become unstable and lead to a tip over.
This is why inspecting your path of travel before using the lift is so important, especially if the lift will be elevated while moving.
Even if you are familiar with the area, inspect it for holes, drop-offs, curbs, slopes, or similar items which can lead to a tip over. While inspecting the intended travel path and work area, be sure to check for overhead obstructions. Be especially cautious of any type of overhead cranes that may be working in the area. If you plan to work in the path of an overhead crane, it should be locked and tagged out of service to prevent a collision. Here are some other safe work practices to prevent tip overs. Make sure the path of travel or work area can support the weight of your platform. Check the capacity of any bridge plates, grates, covers, or similar devices before crossing. When outdoors, avoid soft soil conditions which may settle or shift under the weight of your vehicle. When moving from one work area to the next, lower your platform before traveling to maximize stability. When it is necessary to move small distances or maneuver with the platform raised, proceed slowly and cautiously while maintaining a clear view of the travel surface. In all cases, keep a safe distance from drop-offs, holes, ramps, and other obstacles which may overturn the vehicle. When using ropes, cords, hoses, or similar items, moving the lift while caught or entangled can pull the lift over. Also, be careful not to allow the platform to be caught on anything solid while going up or down. In addition, do not hoist or lower tools and supplies from an elevated lift, and never use the lift as a crane or for any other lifting function other than lifting personnel as intended. To ensure your safety, in addition to following safe work practices, you must make sure the lift is in good operating condition. Whether you are a new operator or one with years of experience, you must perform a pre-operational inspection prior to using the lift. This inspection should be done before use each day or at the start of each shift.
During your training, you will be instructed how to inspect your specific lift, but here are the basics which apply to most types of elevated work platforms.
Locate the weatherproof storage compartment and verify the presence of the operator's and maintenance manuals. These manuals contain important information and must stay with the lift at all times. As an operator, you must be familiar with the operator's manual and refer to it when operating questions arise. Next, walk completely around the platform and look for fluid leaks, loose parts, structural damage, and other conditions that might render the unit unsafe. Check the tires for any defects such as cuts, bulges, or embedded objects, and make sure they have the recommended amount of air pressure. Air hoses, fuel lines, and hydraulic lines should be visually inspected for leaks or damage, and critical fluid levels should be checked, such as those contained in the hydraulic and brake systems. Also, visually inspect wiring harnesses and cables for worn or damaged areas. All guardrails, gates, and other safety devices should be in place and secured. These should be in good condition with no cracked welds or missing sections. Verify that swinging gates will only swing in. They should never swing out. All safety and warning labels should be legible and in good condition.
After completing these visual inspections, a functional test of the operating and emergency controls must be performed.
Aerial work platforms have operating controls on the body of the lift as well as in the work platform. A switch is used to select which controls are in operation. As part of your training, you will learn how to operate the specific controls for the lift you will be operating. In general, the lift control should cause the lift to move in the direction the control is moved. Upon release, the control should automatically return to a neutral position, stopping the movement of the lift. Test the function of the controls on the body of the lift to ensure each function operates properly. Be sure to test the emergency stop button to ensure its proper operation. Next, test the function of the controls located on the work platform to ensure they operate properly. If your vehicle has a foot pedal, the control should not work unless the pedal remains depressed. Releasing the pedal should stop all movement. Be sure to test the emergency stop button here as well. The working platform contains the driving controls for the vehicle itself. The vehicle cannot be driven from the lower control panel. Test the forward, reverse, and stopping functions. There is no brake pedal on these types of vehicles. Simply letting go of the control will stop the vehicle. If you discover any damage, defect, or improper operation during your inspection, mark the vehicle out of service and report the situation to your supervisor. Never use a damaged or defective lift.
Once you're confident that your vehicle is in good working order and that your path of travel and intended work area are safe, it is time to mount the vehicle.
Inform any affected coworkers that you intend to move the vehicle and make sure no one is under or around the lift. Squarely face the machine and maintain three-point contact while climbing up and into the platform. Be sure not to use any operational levers as handholds when climbing on or off, and stay clear of the foot controls. When driving the platform to and from the work area, maintain a safe travel speed. You will need to adjust your speed based on changing conditions such as congestion, visibility, inclines, and other factors. Be aware that boom lifts can pivot around the base, changing the operator's orientation. The same control movement which caused a right-hand turn while facing one way will cause a left-hand turn while facing the other. Many lifts have markings to assist the operator in gaining his orientation before moving. When driving this type of lift, take a moment to make sure you know which way the lift will go before moving. Some vehicles have a large blind spot when driving from the lowered position. You may need to use a safety spotter when this is the case.
After arriving at your destination, mark your immediate work area with cones to alert other vehicles and pedestrians of your presence.
When using a boom lift, be sure your barricaded area is sufficient to include the intended swing radius of the boom. When raising or lowering the platform, keep hands and arms inside the rails. Passing near a solid object creates a pinch point that can cause major injury. Also, keep an eye out for overhead obstacles to avoid hitting your head while elevating. Take extra precautions to avoid high voltage power lines. Most elevated work platforms are not electrically insulated and provide no electrical protection. Most manufacturers recommend a 10-foot safety distance for lines less than 50,000 volts. For voltages higher than 50,000 volts, the minimum safe approach distance increases as the voltage increases. These distances can be found in the operator's manual or the National Electric Code. At this point, you should have on any necessary personal protective equipment that may be required by your company. Typically, steel-toe boots, safety glasses, and a hard hat are recommended while using an aerial work platform.
This is a good time to discuss the body harness and the lanyard. Now, I'm currently on an articulating boom lift. On this type of lift, the platform can move away from the base of the vehicle and move in 3 dimensions. Now, because of these various directions of movement and platform extension, a harness and lanyard is legally required to prevent the operator from being ejected from the platform during a sudden, unexpected movement.
In this application, the harness and lanyard are not being used as fall protection. Instead, they are being used as a restraint device to prevent the operator from going over the rail.
A scissor lift works differently from a boom lift. The platform only goes straight up or straight down and does not extend beyond the base. There is minimal risk of occupant ejection from normal movement of this type of platform. Legislation varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction concerning the use of restraint devices with scissor lifts. Even so, many companies, but not all, require a harness and lanyard be used as a matter of internal policy. Always follow your company's specific policies and procedures. In all cases, when a lanyard and harness are used, inspect the components to be sure they are in good working condition, and only connect to the lift manufacturer's supplied anchor point.
The best advice that can be given regarding safety while in an aerial work platform is to stay inside the guardrails and keep both feet on the floor.
Do not climb over the rails to access other work platforms. The lift is not to be used as a personal elevator. Avoid the temptation to get something that is just out of reach. If you can't reach it with both feet on the floor, reposition the vehicle or find another way to do the job, but do not stand on or climb over the rail for any reason.
Also, don't stand on any item while in a lift in an effort to reach higher. As Lewis Caldwell tragically learned, using a ladder while on a lift can be a fatal mistake.
I thought everyone knew you weren't supposed to go climbing up on stuff while on the lift.
Everybody but Lewis, it seems. Lewis must have felt protected with his harness on, because he set up a ladder and proceeded to climb higher than the guardrails.
He didn't put out any cones, and the forklift came around the corner, bumped the lift. He just fell off, and when his lanyard pulled tight, the whole lift came down on top of him. He didn't stand a chance.
Just remember this, in both the boom lift and scissor lift, the only true fall protection is the guardrail, not the lanyard. Aerial work platforms are not designed to withstand the shock load generated by a person falling while tied off to the platform.
Another common fall protection mistake is tying off to something outside the platform. There is no reason to tie off outside the basket. Remaining inside the guardrails and keeping both feet on the floor assures that you will not fall. When operators tie off outside the basket, they can be seriously injured should they or a coworker decide to move the lift, causing them to be dragged over the rail. And finally, in the unlikely event of a hydraulic leak or failure, the basket will lower in a smooth, controlled manner. Should this occur, it is much better to descend with the basket rather than be left hanging from the rafters.
Aerial work platforms such as the boom lifts and scissor lifts that we have shown in this program are a valuable tool that we can use to perform many elevated tasks easier and safer than ever before.
It's up to us to use the information presented in this program to operate them in a safe, responsible manner. Understand that it doesn't take much horizontal force to tip a raised platform, so never push or pull against solid objects from the raised position. Recall that uneven surfaces, slopes, and holes, even small ones, can easily cause a turnover. Always perform a thorough pre-operational inspection, drive with caution, and inspect your intended work area and your path of travel. Understand that the many various types of lifts have unique capacities, controls, functions, and hazards, all of which can be found in the operator's manual. And finally, while working on an elevated platform, keep both feet on the floor and remain inside the guardrails at all times.
Following these simple rules, using good judgment, and maintaining an elevated commitment to your personal safety when working above ground will ensure you return to Earth in the same condition in which you left. Now have a good day and a safe day.